Hello everyone, it's Brett here, Lionheart84, and you'll have to excuse me a little bit today with this video. It's been sort of blowing gale force winds today, so it's going to make it a little bit harder to make the video because I've got to be careful where I put the plants so they don't blow over and get broken. But I'm doing a video today about avocado plants, specifically about some of the ones that we've been getting here in Europe, or I've been getting in Europe, and including and mis-selling or misrepresentation of some of the plants we've been supplied, specifically one that's been supplied by a UK nursery. I'm not actually going to talk about them by name because the nursery themselves, they're very nice people, and they're doing the best they can to supply good quality plants, but unfortunately they've been duped by the Italian grower of these avocados, and I'm going to go into the various reasons why, whether or not they're grafted or not grafted, and the explanation behind it and the evidence. I will mention the Italian grower when we get to that point, but as I said, this isn't casting aspersions on the UK supply, because I'm delighted they've taken the chance to bring some avocados in, and they're selling them with the best will, the best intentions. However, what they haven't done is apologised and put their hands up and said, yes, we've been duped, the plants aren't all grafted, although some of them probably are, and they've been caught out, but they're not willing to accept it because basically they don't know anything about avocados. They are experienced citrus sellers, and they keep referring to their expertise on recognising citrus grafts, but unfortunately they don't know anything about avocados. So what I thought I'd do is do a little talk about some of the types of grafting methods used on avocados, and these are all my own opinions here and my own research, and I'm going to tell you right now, I am not an expert grafter. I'm an absolutely terrible grafter in terms of my own abilities. I've done very few with a very low success rate. However, I would say that I'm an expert on the subject of grafting. I've watched many hundreds, if not thousands, of grafting videos, grafting articles, commercial grafting, amateur grafting, all the different methods and sorts tried all around the world on all different types of plants. So I think I've got a very good working knowledge of the actual process of grafting. It's a bit like being an expert football trainer but a lousy footballer. You don't always have to be good at the subject to know a fair bit about it. So basically, when you're talking about avocado grafting, there are quite a few commercial grafted avocado plant producers in Europe, mostly in Italy and Spain, but there are obviously some probably in France and some of the other countries, especially in the warmer areas. So the first thing, and I'm also going to be talking about plant passports a little bit in this, and what they actually tell you and should tell you about what you're buying, and why they can be a little bit of a giveaway that you're not getting what you're supposed to be getting. So basically with avocados, there are quite a few different types of grafting you can use on them. There's bud grafting, there's approach grafting, there's veneer grafting, but the two main types used commercially in Europe by the European growers are splice grafting and cleft grafting. Now I have got samples. I have some grafted avocado plants here, as well as the one that was meant to be grafted but isn't, and I've also got pictures to show you of the ones that have been claimed to be grafted and why you can clearly see they're not grafted. So the main types of grafting, as I said, used in Europe are splice grafts and cleft grafts. Now, if you are a very experienced, skilled grafter, and you take your time and you've got good quality science and rootstocks all the way through, you've probably got a very good chance of getting an 80 to 90% success rate. I believe the splice grafts give a slightly better success rate than the cleft grafts. I'm not sure why. Perhaps because you get a longer section where you're trying to make the two together. I always thought personally it'd be quite hard to take them together, but it seems to be quite a successful method. As I said, I've got both types of graft here on my grafted plants, which I can show you, and some of the things to look for. Because one thing I'd say about avocados is they do have a tendency to scar quite badly where they're grafted. So it's normally very, very obvious where they're grafted, but they also have other interesting sort of physiological ways of growing that can fool you into thinking that they've been grafted when in fact they haven't, and that's sort of what I got sort of initially hoodwinked by as well, until I did a lot more research. So I thought that I'd start by looking at some of my grafted avocados that I've now got and where they've come from, and the types of grafting that's actually been used on them. And you'll have to excuse me while I sort of dip out a shot and reach the plants, because what I didn't want to do is get them blown over in the wind we've got today, which is very strong. Let me just lean down. Now the first plant I've got here is a grafted Mexicola Grande, which was a French sourced plant. I'm going to try and bring that up and show that to you. Now that one has got a splice graft, so basically you have two stems that are cut horizontally and they are pushed together and tied together. Let's turn it around and show the other side as well. And that one was a splice graft, and that was from a French supplier. So we're just going to pop that one back down for the minute. Now, the second one I'm going to show you, this plant here, is a grafted Fuerte. Excuse me while I sneeze. Excuse me, must be the wind doing that. And this one also has a splice graft. Let me show you that one. And again you can see that is another angled splice graft running across there. Can't show the other side because it's taped against the stick. But again, that is a splice graft. Now the third one, go and get the third one. The third one here is my grafted Mexicola Grande, which is the one that's got flower buds there on it and flower buds at the top as well, which you may or may not be able to see. Now this one, interestingly, is this one has been cleft grafted, so I hope you'll be able to see. Let's take the glasses off so I can see as well. I'm hoping you can see the V graft in there. Turn it around and show the other side as well. It's quite obvious to see from the scarring, and you can also see the completely different colour between the rootstock and the scion here, which has been grafted in a cleft. Now that one is, although it says France on it, I think it's originated in France, but I suspect it's probably a Spanish grub plant. So those are the two main commercially used types of graft in Europe, and as I said, most of them come from Spain and Italy, with some French supplied ones as well. So those plants I've got there, two of them came from a French nursery or grower, and one of them came from a Spanish grower. So let me just pause the video a minute, because I want to get another plant, and I'm going to flip the camera around so we can have a look in greater detail at them. Okay, so I wanted to have a closer look again at this grafted one. This is my Mexicola Grand, which came from France, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about the plant passports on them. Now, the idea of the plant passport as regards Europe is it tells you where the plants originated from, and it tells you exactly what species, and if it's a varietal name, the variety you've got, and it will tell you the region it's come from if you've got the decoding, and the batch number. So if we have a look at this one here, this plant passport here, this is the phytosanitary certificate or plant passport. Now you can see that the letter A is Persea Mexicola Grand, so that's telling you it's a Persea, and the varietal name is Mexicola Grande. The B is, I believe, the region where this has come from, or it might be the batch number and region, and C is also to do with, in this case, probably the date of when the plant passports were done, and the FR at the bottom means France. So this is a French supplied or produced plant. See the original price there in France, and as I said, you can clearly see this is a splice graft where the stem was cut at an angle. You can see the obvious scarring around it, because avocados are not necessarily easily to do. And if you look up here where it's got a side shoot on it, you can probably see the scarring that these start to develop around the shoot where it branches out from the main stem. And more of that I will come to later in the video. So I'm just going to pause it and move this one out of the way so it doesn't get blown over in the wind. Right, now the second grafted plant I'm looking at here is another grafted plant. Now this is the one that's got a cleft graft on it. You can clearly see the V-shape cut into the original scion, and the different colour and texture between the stem of the rootstock, which was probably most likely Zutano, and the colour of the scion, which in this case is a bacon. So if we have a look around the other side, you can also see the V cleft here. And if we have a look higher up the plant, we can have a look at the plant passport on this one as well. This has got a colour label on it that says bacon, but that doesn't mean anything. But more importantly, again, you can see that under the letter A it says Persea Bacon, Persea being the Latin name of avocado and bacon being the varietal name. And again, the region of France or the French grower. This one is April 23, and again this has originated in France. It's a 7 litre pot. So we have all the information we need about that one. Let me put this one down, then we'll get to the third one. Okay, so now we're looking at the third plant, which is actually the most recent one that I acquired, and again a little bit higher up the stem, but you can clearly see that this one has got a splice graft. So again, we've got the angle running straight across the stem of the rootstock and the scion here. And now this one's got a generic label on it, which is why you have to be careful with these. This actually says, the picture and the name on the label said Hass, but that's not relevant on this. What you need to look at again is the plant passport on this one. Again, it says Persea Americana, which is the Latin name, and in inverted commas it's got Fuerte because this is a grafted Fuerte. Now this one has the Spanish region because this is ES, Spanish region, and this is the batch number on this one, and the ES at the bottom is for España. So this is a Spanish produced grafted plant, and it seems very common there that they use very common there for them to use the splice graft. I suspect it's because it seems to be slightly easier to do and allows a better success rate because you get more contact on one side of the stem. Now the reason I want to look at this one as well, interestingly, is because this one has produced above the graft, this has produced 2 side shoots, and if you look you can just see in between the wings, you can probably just see these starting to scar up where the side shoot comes out of the main stem. Avocados produce this scarring around them where the side shoot is attached to the main stem. Now that's relevant for the latter part of the video, so let me stop this and then I'm going to get the 4th plant, which is the one I want to talk about most. Right, so now we're going to be looking at the 4th plant, the one that's caused all the furore amongst our friends who have bought them and have discovered they're not grafted, despite the sellers' best efforts to try and claim that they're grafted. As I said, they've clearly been duped, as if you like have we all, because the plants are being missold. They're not what they're purported to be. Now it's quite likely that some of the plants the seller has are indeed grafted. In fact, I'm going to show you pictures that will prove that they do have at least 1 or 2 grafted ones amongst what they've bought, but unfortunately in most cases the plants are not grafted. They are failed grafts and have been grown into nice bushy plants. Now I'm going to say that I'm actually very pleased with my plant, because the price I paid for this one is was £55 including delivery, which, whilst it's not cheap for the size of the plant and the stem, it's actually, I consider, quite a fair price for an extremely healthy plant, and it is a plant I can graft onto. But I'm obviously been discussing these at some length with friends including Peter, Mike, Louis, Namala and various other people who have bought the plants or thinking buying the plants. Wow, look at that wind. So I've really got to keep hold of this. It's ridiculous. I don't know why I'm filming this today. It just seemed like a good day to do it. Now these avocados that have come from a UK supplier have been supplied to them by a company called Mango Me in Italy. Now from what I have, having done a fair bit of research, I've now ascertained that, as I said, this company is not particularly ethical in terms of what they're prepared to send out. Yes, they are a commercial nursery that produces grafted avocados, mangoes, grapes and various other plants, but from what I can see, they seem perfectly happy to send plants out where the grafts have clearly failed, as well as the ones where the grafts have actually been successful. It may well be that they're simply happy to send them to the UK, thinking that we don't know any better or don't care, and they save the best quality plants for the people they commercially supply in Italy and France. But I don't like being hoodwinked, but I like even less being told a load of rubbish. So we're going to look at this one in more detail so that you can see what my issues are with it and why it's clearly not grafted, which hopefully, having looked at the other ones, will become quite clear to you. So I'm going to put the plant up on the table here and hold on to it firmly, because obviously it's going to slightly blow over, and then I'm going to show you some other pictures. Now when I first got this plant, I initially tried to convince myself it was grafted, because I saw what I thought were grafting scars here and here on these 2 lower stems, and I thought, what an amazing job of grafting I've done. And then I realised to myself, there is no form of grafting that would actually produce a plant like that, especially on an avocado, which tend to suffer a lot of deformity where they're scarred and scar very badly. There is no method of grafting that whereby you could simply stick a side branch onto a main stem and expect it to take. I mean, short of gluing it on with super glue, this is just not going to work. And if this was a bud graft, you would see the scars where they'd cut the slot underneath. So it's now very obvious to me, and you also wouldn't graft 2 or 3 side stems onto a main stem. You would only graft one one splice graft or cleft graft onto the stem, because there'd be no reason to be putting 2 or 3 grafts on here, because it's not commercially viable. These plants in Italy by Mango Me are sold for between 21 and 25 euros, so they're not expensive, although obviously we're paying 50 to 60 pounds for them here, but it wouldn't be viable to be putting 2 or 3 grafts on. But I'm now going to go into some other points which people have probably not realised when they got excited and thought they had a multi-grafted plant with incredible precision grafts on. When this arrived, there were remnants of grafting tape around here, but there wasn't actually any grafting tape around this union, and there was no grafting tape around this union. There was simply grafting tape left around the top of this dead stump. Now it's extremely clear to me that there must have been a cleft graft above here which failed, and when it died off, the rootstock put out these side shoots. Now this plant must be 3 or 4 years old, I would say, because they're normally grafted when they're at about pencil thickness, and this is now at least the thickness of my finger, so well over half an inch and much thicker at the base. So it's quite clear that the grafted section was here and that has failed. And someone pointed out to me, oh well, this must be the scarring from the graft and there's nothing higher up. Well, in actual fact, all you've got to do if you go a little bit higher up the stem where you've got the side shoots here is you can already see the typical avocado oval grafting forming, scarring forming around this side shoot, which is a much younger side shoot, and gradually this scar will go round the whole of the side shoot. The other thing to point out is the growth here and here is absolutely identical. There's no differentiation in colour between the side shoots and the main stem. That's because it's all the same plant, and you can look up and see that there's clearly no sign of any graft there. That is purely a normal side shoot, and I'm going to look at some other pictures in a minute which I'll be able to cover it further. Now furthermore, when you look at the foliage on this, the foliage is a different type of foliage to on my 3 grafted ones. It's a lot less leathery. I believe that the scions are probably the rootstocks are probably Zutano, and I don't have a Zutano, so I can't compare it, but I suspect these are Zutano, which I'm fine with because it's a lovely looking plant, but there is no differentiation between the growth on the stems. Now further evidence is their own plant passport. Now here is the plant passport, and you can even use the QR code if you want to go to Mango Me. Now this is the plant passport, and the name of the plant here on the plant passport is Persea americana. There's no mention of any grafted name on here, which means that when they've produced this plant passport, to my mind they were already aware that the graft hadn't succeeded, and all they were selling is a seedling Persea americana, because by law they're required to put the varietal name on the plant passport if it's actually a grafted plant. And the information below, again, B, that's the Italian zone, C is I think the regional batch number, and D is Italy. Now having done a lot of research, I know for a fact now that Mango Me use cleft grafts on their avocado production and on their mango production, so there would be a cleft graft that would have been above here, which has obviously failed, and that's why we've got a seedling rootstock here. So even the fact that they've not put the varietal name on there tells you all you need to know. The supplier over here was waffling about, I think something about the F might stand for Fuerte and the D for something else, but the F stands for France. That's French. Maturation entre août et novembre, the F does not stand for Fuerte, the F stands for France, and the 4 letters up there are standardised on all plant passports. So that's a little bit more about my plant here. As I said, these are not grafts, these are side shoots. So, and if you think otherwise, unfortunately you're mistaken. As I said, this did have remnants of grafting tape on it. It's going to get blown away in a minute, and I'm going to put some photographs in a minute, and that will prove that far from proving the plants are grafted, it's actually proved that they're not grafted, and I'll just explain on the pictures in just a minute. So let me stop the camera and go back to the pictures, and then the video will be completed. Right, so I've come inside now because the reflection's outside, we couldn't look at the pictures. Now these are actually some of the pictures that have been sent by the supplier over here to try and prove that their plants are grafted, and I think it actually proves that they're not. Now what we're looking at here, you can see remnants of tape here, and here is the dead central stem. Now to my view, the tape would have been wrapped around the stem there, not below this branch obviously, because clearly the grafted section has died, and that's left you with these 2 side shoots which are formed, which are clearly identical growth and look the same as the rootstock. Obviously there's a little bit more scarring on it because the wood is older, because these shoots have probably developed a year after. So it's quite clear to me that that section has died. Now it's the same thing we've got here. You've got tape here, the remnants of the tape around this section here. There is no tape around any of this area whatsoever. So it's quite clear that the section that was taped above here was the scion, and they would have done a V, probably a cleft graft there. Clearly the scion's died, and the rootstock has sent out another side shoot. Again, you can see this is the typical marking that side shoots have on avocados. This is not some kind of miracle graft. This is the bit that's grafted, because the tape would be wrapped around the whole of that area there, not around this central stem here. Have I got any other pictures here? Once again, that's where the original main stem would have died, and this is obviously just a side shoot. You can see the bit of tape sticking out there where that would have been out of the side. Now what interests me is the supplier has actually got a couple of plants that have got flower buds on them, which is great. Now there's 2 possibilities behind that. One, some of their plants have definitely got cleft grafts on them that are still alive, so I'm thinking that some of their plants have got, which I'm going to show you a picture one in a minute, have got grafted scions on which have survived, and they've been sent plants that have got the grafted scions on, and that's why they've got some that have got flower buds, in the same way that my young Mexico La Grande has got flower buds. And the other thing is, interestingly, although avocados normally take sort of 7 or 8 years to reach flowering maturity, these plants have got quite thick stems on them, and I think they're 3 or 4 years old. But a friend of mine in Spain showed me a picture, sent me a picture of a 2-year-old seedling growing in grounds, actually had flowers on it, and that was only 2 years old, and it wasn't grafted, it was a seedling. So in the right conditions, these plants can flower extra early. And again, you can look at this one here, same thing. Although the tape, there seem to be remnants of tape round there, again you can see the tape goes around this dead central piece, which would have been where they attempted to do the cleft graft. Same thing on this one. You can even see the remains of the cleft there, as far as I'm concerned, and that's been cut off when it's died, and then this side shoot's come out just below where the cleft graft was. And I've got one more picture which should be conclusive, which is their favourite one to send out. Now they've been sending this one out and trying to claim that it had 2 grafts on it. So they've put a ring round. This is the ring from the seller. They put a ring round this section here and a ring round this section here. Well, this one is absolutely, definitely grafted. There's the very clear V graft, cleft graft, and it's still got a scion that's alive in it. Now, the proof of the pudding is, look at what a different colour and type of growth the scion has on it compared to the rootstock. Now, it's blatantly obvious that this shoot here, if that's the grafted area, what's this down here? There's clearly no graft there. This is simply a side shoot. And if this was a citrus, I think you'd call this a water sprout or water shoot. Look at the vigour and thickness of this long straight main stem compared to this weedy little grafted section. Now, if that was me, I'd be cutting that off, because that shoot up there, which is incredibly strong and thick and clearly the same colour as the rootstock, that is taking all the energy out of this grafted section. So that grafted section is definitely dying. So I think really I've probably covered enough in this video and waffled on for long enough. I think it's fairly clear by now what I think of the supplier. As I said, I'm very happy with my plant. I think it was a fair price for a beautiful, bushy, healthy plant. But what annoys me is it's not a grafted plant like this one that they've obviously still got in stock if they haven't sold it out. It is simply a rootstock which has got some nice branches on it, which will make a lovely avocado, and it may even flower in itself one day. But again, if I want to graft onto it, I can. Now, I'm hoping this video has been useful for people who weren't convinced and thought that they had a multi-grafted plant. I mean, there's just no way a nursery is going to produce a multi-grafted plant. It's just not cost effective for them. And they'd have, some plants would have 1 graft surviving, some would have 2, some would have 3. It's just not a viable way of running a business, especially for the price they charge in Italy. But clearly they're a little bit naughty and are sending out plants to us suckers here in the UK via the seller over here that are not what they're purported to be. And I would be happy if I had that one, although having said that, for £65, that's not a very impressive looking plant. Of course, you don't know what this graft is. And interestingly, if you saw the plant passport for this plant here, maybe it would have a varietal name on it, because it has actually got a grafted scion variety there. Who knows? Because I haven't got this plant and I'm not going to have this plant. But I thought that video might be of interest to people in the UK who are wondering whether to buy one of these plants that are claimed to be grafted. I just wish they'd apologise and say it's come to our attention that we were sold the plants as grafted plants, but they're clearly not all grafted, for which we apologise. And that would be enough for me. Some people may want their money back or might want to return the plants, but I'm happy with my plant. It's just not what I thought I was getting. But I'm very easygoing and those sort of things don't worry me. But I thought it would be interesting to have a look at this in more detail for people that wanted to see what was coming. And as I said, the grower is Mango Me. I'm not going to cast aspersions on the supplier here, but if they did their detailed research and knew a little bit more about avocados, they would realise that their plants are not all grafted. Anyway, thanks for watching my very long waffly video. Hopefully it'll be of interest to some people. Please by all means give me a thumbs up. You're welcome to share it if you think there's going to be people who would like to know a little bit more about those plants and the grafting used for avocados normally in Europe. Please subscribe to my channel, and of course click on the bell if you'd like to know when new videos come out, which will be my more what I call normal videos. I'll see you all soon. Brett out for now.